Hi, my name's Steve Schafer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Foundation for Better Government. And many of you have asked for a backgrounder on the Foundation, and if you'll allow me just a few minutes, I'll try and keep it under about 10. I'll tell you who I am, who we are, and a little bit about where we're headed over the next year and a half. In 2018, the Foundation enters its 5th year, and we're still guided by the same mission statement we established at inception: to foster superior governance, one elected representative at a time. We've been involved in municipal and provincial politics. We've registered as third-party advertisers in many elections, and have even taken on an entire municipal campaign, a slate nearly managing every aspect of their campaign. We've also worked on nomination campaigns to ensure the best candidate gets through. As far as federal politics goes, our directors and board of advisors all have solid campaign experience, both at HQ and on local campaigns. Our board of advisors includes a former vice president of national council, a former BC campaign manager for the national campaign team, and a former regional organizer. A little bit about myself: I grew up in Calgary South, as it was then known, and in the early 90s became one of the youngest members of the Reform Party, which parenthetically you pretty much had to join if you were in Calgary or you'd be run out of town, just in case there are any former PC party members who are unaware of the zeitgeist at that time. I went to town hall meetings and listened to talk about eliminating the deficit and the debt, and between that and the then nascent Canadian Taxpayers Federation gaining prominence, that was enough to get me to volunteer on Preston Manning's campaign, who would eventually become my MP. And most of my political experience since has been in the back rooms managing campaigns. I'm currently the president of one of the Conservative Party's riding associations out here in BC, and I sit on another one next door as well. I've had nearly every other role on a board and have attended most of the party's conventions, but my true love has always been strategy, and that means running campaigns. And this next one for our foundation will be the most exciting campaign to date, with the potential to change the political landscape in Canada forever. So what's next for the Foundation for Better Government? Well, over the coming months, we'll be focused on a couple of key things. To begin with, we're emerging from the shadows. We've been effective there, but not nearly working to capacity. You see, we've long wanted to expand our scope to effectively advocate for conservative issues on the national front, but we've been frustrated in the same by the former national campaign manager of the Conservative Party, who actively discouraged people from engaging in third-party activities. This despite the glut of well-funded third parties on the left versus the relative paucity of these groups on the right. So just how serious is the funding gap for conservative third-party advertisers? Well, consider this. Of the more than $6 million total spending from all third parties in the last federal election, the ultra-left George Soros-funded Tides Foundation alone gave $1.96 million to influence the outcome, $700,000 of which went to just 8 of the legally registered third parties shortly before the last federal election. The Council of Canadians, the Dogwood Initiative, Equiterre, Ecology Ottawa, Greenpeace Canada, Toronto 350, West Coast Environmental Law Association, and the West Coast Environmental Law Research Foundation shared in the sport and money windfall. Now, the 104 third parties who registered for the last election are more than double the number who registered in 2011 and represent a 5-fold increase in terms of funding. But this still isn't the most troubling part, nor even is the fact that most of these were trade unions. No, more troubling still is that these figures don't count the amount of money that was spent outside of what we call the writ period, during which time there is no accounting for money spent. Many people forget that Prime Minister Harper called the last election earlier than needed, in large part to prevent this tsunami of cash from overshadowing the actual election period. So there's a huge pile of money left that the opposition planned to spend in 2015, and it's only grown bigger. With no conservative-leaning third-party advertisers on the national scene in Canada, the situation indeed looks bleak, but it's a new day. We have a new team in Ottawa, and with that, a new national campaign manager. Hamish Marshall certainly knows what he's doing. and knows about our foundation. We've been involved in a few of the same campaigns, oftentimes at long odds since around 2010. I have every confidence in him to run a campaign by the numbers with a calm demeanor and through sound strategy. But no matter how brilliant Hamish might be, and he is, and no matter how many brilliant people he surrounds himself with, his team cannot be smarter than the collective intelligence of the rest of the small C Conservatives in Canada. And that's why we're also not trying to pretend that we're better than every other Conservative put together. But as we expect, there will be a few Conservative groups registering for the 2019 election. We believe there ought to be teamwork and a laser-like focus from our groups, rather than an uncoordinated shotgun blast from the lot of us hoping to hit some nebulous target. So the Foundation for Better Government is presenting our clearinghouse model. We believe scarce resources are better spent if one organization is vetting the others in terms of organizational strength, experience, and election readiness. If we were to properly vet other organizations, we very well could partner with them rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. Look, if a group in Vaudreuil-Soulanges knows how to communicate, they have their ducks in a row and merely need money, we'd simply cut them a check. If the issue is communication, hey, we're a central repository of video and brochure needs. If the organization, if organization itself is the issue, we can offer legal advice from our team for getting started. But it's critical that our brand is out there, since we'll all essentially be fishing from the same pond. And we wouldn't be good stewards of your personal after-tax dollars or your corporate donation if we didn't do all we could to prevent redundancy and overhead. What's in our immediate future? We're preparing to start shooting our first ad for the 2019 national campaign. I'm excited about this one. And this one's going to target the Liberals where they're most vulnerable, their youth vote. But how do we create an effective ad? Well, we start with getting our strategic messaging right first. One of the goals of a very effective campaign should be to take what your opponents perceive to be their greatest strength and, through a carefully crafted narrative, turn it into one of their greatest weaknesses. In the Liberal Party's case, they were able to energize and capture an outsized portion of the youth vote, largely based on promises of a decidedly nebulous nature, such as positive change or #fairness, but also a very concrete promise to legalize marijuana. Since the current government doesn't have any more pot dreams to sell, we believe the youth will not show up for them on Election Day 2019 the way they did 4 years prior. That was their greatest strength, turning an otherwise low turnout demographic and having them show up en masse to vote Liberal. Now, how do we turn that into their greatest weakness? We explain that their lives have become a sacrificial lamb for the excesses of the boomer generation. Healthcare, Freedom 55, government-guaranteed pension plans, none of that existed prior to the boomers. And while they were busy radically changing the way our entire society operates, they were also occupying the highest offices in the land and racking up dizzying amounts of debt. So our first ad focuses on one elderly lady apologizing for her part in this mess, apologizing to her grandchildren and promising to atone in the only way she knows how, by not voting for the Liberals anymore. Others in this series will focus on the age-old seniors phrase, hey, when I was your age, and expound on how much better life was. We want to emphasize why things were better first, then how everything's changed as a result, and why that change has benefited seniors at youth's expense. This is what we hope to produce in the next couple of months as part of our national campaign designed to get third-party advertisers active in all 338 ridings. The spending cap for third parties is governed by Byzantine regulations, but for the sake of our discussion, it's a little over $4,000 per registered entity for now. Simple math tells us that before triage and assuming fully funded campaigns across the country, we need over $1.3 million to be as effective as possible. Yes, our plan is to perform triage and to register many more entities in each of the targeted ridings as funding allows. But this is the essence of what a genuine battle plan looks like, and it speaks to the need for a unified voice and some branding. Consider these names: Greenpeace, Tides Foundation, Acorn Canada, or closer to home here in BC, Lead Now, the Dogwood Initiative, the Suzuki Foundation, etc. Look, irrespective of your political leanings, you at least know something about these groups and how your money will be spent if you donate to them. If we don't employ a similar branding strategy in Canada to combat these organizations, we're going to get walloped again and again and again. At the Canadian Foundation for Better Government, we believe precision targeting and a sound national strategy are what's needed to be both as effective as possible in 2019 and in order to be the best stewards of the funds people entrust to us. That's why we're asking for your support in reaching our goal of raising $1 million by summer 2018 so we can begin in earnest to put the necessary pieces in place for the 2019 election. The left's organizations are very well funded. Let's at least show them we're not simply going to roll over and concede the third-party fight. In fact, let's meet these revisionist, history-loving, wealth-destroying, freedom-hating, race-baiting, power-hungry, greedy, insecure socialist losers head-on and beat them at their own game. I hope you'll partner with us. Contribute what you can, especially as corporations where you can write off your donations when you sponsor one of our fundraisers. We got a lot more exciting things coming up. We'll let you know as they happen. And again, we hope you'll partner with us. Thank you for your time, thoughtful consideration. Let's win in 2019. Again, for the Canadian Foundation for Better Government, I'm Steve Schafer.